Who Caused the Explosion by Lydia Phantom. Over his 17 years on Earth, Peter Parker has strived to do everything in his power to be a good person. Never in his life has he intentionally performed any type of activity that would describe him as bad. He wasn't stealing or vandalising someone else's property. He was helping his neighbours when needed, even Mr. Sullivan, his 87-year-old neighbour, whose phone was constantly not working, and Peter would have to remind him every time to charge it, and he would sit and patiently listen about how life was easier without phones before. Peter also frequently helped his Aunt May around their apartment, doing some of the chores or repairing something that had been broken. He helped his boyfriend, Harley, with some AP biology stuff, receiving just as much help with AP engineering in return. And let's not forget that Peter was also Spider-Man, so he helped a lot of people in New York, even if the Daily Bugle refused to call him anything but a menace to society. So, yeah, Peter Parker was trying to be good, and based on the majority of opinions, he was doing a pretty impressive job at it. That's why he honestly had no idea for what reason in bloody hell he was so absurdly punished and what he did wrong in his life to deserve this. Because there definitely should be something. How else could it be explained that he was on his way to the R&D labs at Stark Industries with his whole academic team for a field trip? Bailing from the trip was not an option, not when he already has so many absences due to his internship. Peter really didn't need to drag more attention to this situation, not when the majority of the group, or perhaps even the school, did not believe him about being an intern. Peter wasn't even sure if some of the teachers believed him. Perhaps he should have thought better, because he definitely drew even more attention to himself and his very real internship by going on this trip. Well, to be fair, it wasn't fully his decision. On the contrary, he had very little say in this because both May and then Tony unanimously agreed that he should go, especially if it would not worsen the situation with his absences at school. Peter agreed only after Tony swore on his last mark that he would not try to embarrass him and would let him have a normal trip. True to his word, Tony did not intertwine. Peter's clearance was not announced by Friday, the tour guide did not acknowledge him more than necessary, and no one from the team had come down with some ridiculous task for him to do, with only one goal in mind, to embarrass him. Neither Tony nor Harley hijacked his trip, and Peter was beyond grateful for that. Everything was going good. Great even. The class was amazed by the beauty of SI, and Ned was practically vibrating with excitement, asking Peter at least 3 questions regarding any lab or department they had entered, even if he has been here before. Despite his worries, and apart from constant comments from Flash or Brad about what a liar he was, Peter actually had a chance to enjoy his trip. He really should have known better. Mr. Johns, one of Stark Industries' leading engineers, was in the middle of explaining his latest project when the glass doors slid open and the room filled with voices Peter would not mistake with anything else. But God did he wish he would. Ned gasped next to him, hitting Peter's right hand at least 20 times, when he and the rest of the room figured out who was in front of them too. "I'm telling you, it wasn't even my fault." No one other than Harley Keener exclaimed, throwing his hands up, following a quite unimpressed Tony Stark. "The flask just fell from the table." "And how on earth did this lead to the explosion, huh?" Tony arched an eyebrow, completely ignoring a small crowd only a few steps away from him. The tour group was completely silent, too shocked by the fact that they were actually breathing the same air as Tony Stark to speak or even move. Feeling as his anxiety started to rise, Peter pulled the hood of his hoodie, trying to keep his head low, praying to Thor that neither Tony nor his boyfriend would notice him. This, however, did not go unnoticed by Brad. "What, Parker, scared they won't recognise you?" He laughed, nudging Flash with his shoulder, making the other boy snort as well. "Quite the opposite, actually." Peter pinched the bridge of his nose, confusing his bullies with the response. "Oh please, like Tony Stark would know such a loser like you." Flash rolled his eyes. The tower AI did not acknowledge you. The tour guide has no idea who you are. No one from the tower knows about you. Just you wait until the whole school finds out about this. Being unimpressed by Flash's audacity and useless threats, Peter tried to keep low, hoping that whatever argument his boyfriend and Tony were having was more important than none of them would get such a ridiculous idea as to take a look around the room. "What's next?" Brad asked more loudly, and Peter slowly inhaled through his nose. "You gonna say you're dating Harley Keener?" He laughed, making a few people nearby look at them strangely. "He does," Ned argued, clearly willing to help. This statement was met with laughter not only from Flash and Brad, but also from some classmates around them. "Yeah, right, and Black Widow's my girlfriend," Flash scoffed. Before anyone could respond, Tony started to talk again, bringing the attention back to them. "Nothing to say, huh?" he teased Harley, turning to Mr. Johns, clearly indicating to the teen that the conversation was over for now. Peter saw as Harley frantically looked around, by miracle missing him in the crowd, apparently actually trying to come up with the cover-up story. Peter would have felt bad for his boyfriend if it weren't for his next words. "Why are you asking me and not Peter?" Harley started, gesturing with his hands around, making Peter drop his jaw from the audacity. He would explain better how he could cause the explosion. Peter could not believe what he had just heard. And from who? From his loving boyfriend of all people. Sighing, Tony tilted his head up. "Friday," he called. However, the AI interrupted him. "Mr. Parker is in the room," she announced in a robotic voice. The betrayal. First Harley, now Friday. What was in the air today? The room went dead silent. Slowly, one by one, people turned to him, stepping back, leaving him on full display for both Tony and Harley, who looked just as shocked as the rest of the room. Even Flash and Brad knew better not to try anything. With no people in front of him, Peter had the chance to witness how the realisation slowly came to Tony. "Shit," the man muttered, but in the silent room it sounded like he was shouting. "The field trip. Well, the train has already left the station." "Yup," Peter said, accepting his fate. "The field trip." He continued through his teeth, stepping away from the crowd and making his way to his stunned boyfriend and mentor. "And the explosion," he added, glaring at Harley. "Mr. Parker!" the teacher hissed, being the first from the crowd to recover from the shock, but Peter just waved him off with his hand without looking. The crowd went even more silent, surprised to the bone to see the nerdy Peter Parker confidently going straight to the man they knew he pretended to have an internship with. Pretended, right? However, Peter remained unbothered by all of this, ignoring how his Peter Tingle was going insane from all of the attention he was receiving, and stopping right in front of Tony and Harley. "What, darling, I didn't," Harley started, but was immediately interrupted. "Don't darling me, you just willingly threw me under the bus," Peter exclaimed, gesturing with his hand to Tony, who raised his eyebrows in amusement. "I would never, you know I love you," Harley argued, and someone in the crowd, who suspiciously looked like Flash, choked on air. But nobody paid him any attention, too invested in the drama that was happening in front of them. "Oh yeah?" Peter crossed his hands over his chest. "Is your new love language to blame me for explosions?" "I panicked." Harley winced, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, I noticed." Peter mocked him, looking more annoyed than angry. After all, he could never stay mad at Harley for too long. "So you admit causing the explosion, kid?" Tony asked, looking from one teen to another, and Peter froze, widening his eyes. "What? No!" he protested, turning to the man. "It was an accident," Harley said at the same time, and Tony arched an eyebrow. But then Peter frowned, and after some seconds carefully asked, "Just to clarify, the boy started. Which explosion are we talking about? Tony's jaw went slack as he looked at the teens, raising his hand and pointing his index finger from one to another. That's it, both of you are grounded, Tony announced, not knowing which teen to look at. What? Peter exclaimed the exact second Harley shouted. That's unfair, mechanic. Harley joined him. Should have thought before you cause explosions in my lab. You cause them all the time. Yeah, but it's my lab, my rules, and the rules say that you two can't cause explosions, Tony concluded, crossing his hands over his chest, daring the teens to argue. Before any of the boys could respond, the small voice from the crowd snapped their attention to the tour group. What on earth? Then more people joined in. So, Peter has an internship. Scratch that. Parker is dating Harley Keener. That? Peter's causing explosions in Tony Stark's lab. The room was filling with more and more questions with each passing second, and Tony chuckled, turning to Peter and Harley. On second thought, maybe Peter is punished enough. After all, he now has to explain all this to his class. Thanks for listening. I really hope you enjoyed. Have a lovely rest of your day.